Intermittent fasting. That's what today's video is all about. Now, you may have heard about it, but if you're new to the whole idea of healthy nutrition, you might have a lot of questions. My name is Lance Hitchings, and I created this channel to share what I've learned about turning back the clock on aging. So today, I'm going to be talking about intermittent fasting and its role in turning back the clock. Now watch this video to the end, and you'll learn everything that you need to know about intermittent fasting in order to get started with this great tool. You'll not only learn what it is, but also what the benefits are, and there are many. You'll learn how to do it, utilizing several different strategies, and you'll learn how to do it safely and what the side effects might be. And in my humble opinion, this is one of the first tools that you'll want to use on the path to turning back the clock on aging. There are just so many benefits. Intermittent fasting can advance so many of the objectives that you might choose to include on your quest to turn back the clock. Fasting has been around in one form or another for as long as humans have been around. It's not a new concept. The human body, depending on resources, can go for anywhere between 3 weeks to up to 2 months without food. Now, food was not a dependable resource for our hunter-gatherer ancestors, and we evolved to be able to survive in an environment where we might go for long periods of time without eating. Throughout our history, fasting has been consciously practiced by almost all religious and spiritual sects. And while intermittent fasting, or IF, has been around for ages, it has only been popularized for a few years. In 2012, a BBC journalist by the name of Dr. Michael Mosley created a documentary called Eat, Fast, Live Longer, which was followed by journalist Kate Harrison's book, The 5-2 Diet, and by Dr. Jason Fung's book, The Obesity Code, in 2016. Now, all of these books popularized the idea of intermittent fasting, and a positive buzz has been generated by a steady stream of anecdotes about its effectiveness. But what is it exactly? Well, first off, it's not a diet. It's a pattern of eating. It's not about what you eat, or even about how much, really, but rather about when you eat. So, intermittent fasting is a pattern of eating that cycles between periods of fasting and non-fasting. Now, these cycles can last for anywhere between a single day and several days, and the fasting can be done as a whole day fast or as a time-restricted fast, where one fasts during a period of time each day. And while there's quite a bit of variety in the various strategies with which intermittent fasting can be practiced, the benefits of intermittent fasting seem to be pretty consistent across all the various strategies. Weight loss is the primary benefit, but intermittent fasting also impacts hormone health, insulin sensitivity, inflammation, brain function, and aging. Okay, so let's go through the benefits one at a time. Now, as I mentioned, weight loss is the primary benefit. One of the ways that it accomplishes this is through calorie restriction. When you restrict the time in which you can eat, you tend to eat fewer calories. But it causes weight loss through several other pathways as well. After 12 hours of fasting, your body converts from burning carbs for energy to burning fats. The nervous system signals the adrenal glands to ramp up the release of norepinephrine, or noradrenaline, into the bloodstream. Norepinephrine is a fat-burning hormone, and it breaks down body fat into free fatty acids that can be burned for energy. Intermittent fasting can also lower insulin and raise human growth hormone, and it increases the metabolism. And best of all, intermittent fasting can really target visceral fat, that disease-causing fat that surrounds our internal organs and that can be so difficult to lose. Now, one of the worst side effects of dieting is that the body tends to burn muscle mass as well as fat. But studies have shown that intermittent fasting can retain muscle mass while at the same time burning fat. One review study found that intermittent calorie restriction caused a similar weight loss to continuous calorie restriction, but with a much smaller loss in muscle mass. Continuous calorie restriction produced a 25% loss in muscle mass compared to only a 10% loss with intermittent calorie restriction. Another study had participants eat the same number of calories as before, but in a single huge meal in the evening. They lost body fat, yet they actually increased their muscle mass, along with a host of other beneficial changes in health markers. So intermittent fasting appears to be the best possible strategy for losing weight while retaining or even increasing overall muscle mass. Intermittent fasting can produce benefits that far outweigh simply losing weight. It can also benefit your hormone health. Now, as I mentioned earlier, intermittent fasting can boost your human growth hormone, or HGH, which promotes new muscle growth, which in turn leads to an increased metabolism and weight loss. Studies have shown that intermittent fasting can cause levels of HGH to skyrocket, increasing by as much as 5 times. Intermittent fasting can also have a huge impact on your insulin levels. Now, eating causes insulin levels to rise, and when we fast, insulin sensitivity improves and insulin levels decrease dramatically, facilitating fat burning by making stored body fat more accessible. Intermittent fasting also reduces your insulin resistance, lowering blood sugar by 3 to 6% and fasting insulin levels by 20 to 31%, and this should protect against type 2 diabetes. Intermittent fasting also has a major impact on your testosterone levels. A single short-term fast can boost testosterone levels by as much as 180%, and luteinizing hormone, which you may recall from a previous video, is a hormone that stimulates the Leydig cells in your testicles to produce testosterone. It can increase that by as much as 67% in non-obese, healthy men. The same study also showed that intermittent fasting increased testosterone utilization by 180%. The simple truth is, eating doesn't go well with your T levels. Eating causes testosterone levels to plummet. And with intermittent fasting, there are less hours during the day in which eating is negatively impacting your testosterone levels. Intermittent fasting also induces a process called autophagy, which is where cells break down and remove toxins and estrogenic chemicals that can negatively impact your testosterone levels. It also downregulates leptin, and decreased leptin levels stimulate testosterone production. And in another study, fasting seems to increase androgen sensitivity, which is where receptors respond better to testosterone and other androgens. So if you're trying to naturally boost your testosterone levels, intermittent fasting should be one of your primary tools. Intermittent fasting also has a number of different benefits for your brain health. IF increases levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Now, this is a brain hormone that triggers the growth of neurons in the hippocampus, an area of the brain associated with memory, emotion, and the autonomous nervous system, and one of the first areas to suffer damage from Alzheimer's disease. Because of this, it is also thought that intermittent fasting may protect against Alzheimer's. Oxidative stress and damage to the brain cells from increased amounts of reactive oxygen species, or ROS, has been theorized and somewhat proven to be one of the primary causes of cognitive decline and brain fog. Intermittent fasting has been shown to improve cognition by limiting the production of ROS. You can also limit the production of ROS by maintaining low body fat, exercise, increasing your intake of quality antioxidants and micronutrient-dense foods, and by limiting your intake of polyunsaturated fatty acids. There have been a number of studies which have shown that intermittent fasting can reduce markers for inflammation, which is a key driver in a number of chronic diseases such as metabolic syndrome, diabetes, cancers, and a wide variety of other diseases. Studies have shown that intermittent fasting can reduce bad LDL cholesterol and blood triglycerides, in addition to the previously mentioned inflammatory markers, blood sugars, and insulin resistance. And these are all risk factors for heart disease. When you're in a fasted state, your cells initiate a process called cellular repair process. And this includes, as I mentioned earlier, autophagy, where cells break down, digest, and remove old and dysfunctional proteins that build up inside the cells. There are a number of different animal studies that seem to suggest that intermittent fasting may prevent or protect against a variety of different types of cancer. Intermittent fasting also seems to have a number of anti-aging benefits. In a study done on rats, intermittent fasting extended the rats' lifespans, allowing them to live 36 to 83% longer lives. Now, it was thought that it did this through calorie restriction, but intermittent fasting also causes changes in the function of genes related to both longevity and protection against disease. In my quest to turn back the clock on aging, intermittent fasting is a major component in my arsenal of weapons designed to combat aging. It just has so many benefits for so many of the objectives that I'm trying to achieve. But how do you do it? Before I jump into the various strategies available for intermittent fasting, I'd like to hit on some tips that relate to all strategies of intermittent fasting. And the first of these is food quality. The food that you eat and the quality of those foods are still just as important as they ever were. Try to eat natural, single ingredient, organic, non-GMO foods. Next, calories, which still count. It's important that you keep track of your macros, the proteins, carbs, and fats that you consume, and that you consume the proper ratios as well as the proper total amounts of these calories for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Now, it'll be different depending on whether you're trying to lose weight or put on new muscle. Consistency. You need to be thinking of this as a major change in your lifestyle, something that you will be doing in one form or another for the rest of your life. If you want to see results from it, you need to be doing it consistently for an extended period of time. And finally, patience. It can take your body some time to adapt to an intermittent fasting protocol. Now, I suggest that you take it slowly and in stages. If you try to jump into it immediately and adopt a very strict regimen, your body is not going to thank you for it, and you're going to get really hungry. So just ease into it, training your body to adapt to eating in a smaller and smaller window of time over time. Okay, so there are a few different methods for doing intermittent fasting. And the first one I'm going to talk about is called the 5-2 plan. And in this method, you eat normally for 5 days a week, and then the other 2 days are your fasting days, although you do still eat. You just limit your intake to between 500 and 600 calories. And make sure that your fasting days are on non-consecutive days. In other words, you don't eat for 5 days and then fast for 2, but rather you eat for 3 days, fast for 1, then eat for 2 days, and then fast for 1 day. The next method is called eat, stop, eat. And it's much like the 5-2 method in that you eat normally for 5 days a week and fast on 2 non-consecutive days. But on your fasting days, you restrict all food for 24 hours. You eat nothing on your fasting days instead of the normal 500 to 600 calories that you would normally eat on the 5-2 method. The final method that I'm going to be talking about is called the 16-8 method. Now, this one's a little bit different. In this method, the fasting, non-fasting cycle only lasts for a single day. You fast for 16 hours, and then you only eat during a short 8-hour window of time. Now, you can do this type of fasting, of intermittent fasting, every day or only for a few days a week. So, for example, you could fast all morning and then break your fast at noon. All of your eating for the day occurs in the next 8 hours, and by 8 p.m. you begin your next fast, eating nothing until noon the following day. This is the type of intermittent fasting that I do, and it's a really easy method to ease your way into. Start out by fasting for a shorter period of time and making your window for eating a larger one, and then gradually reduce that window until you achieve an ideal 16-hour to 8-hour ratio. Now, I actually fast for 18 hours a day, and I only eat for 6. Since doing fasted cardio increases the burning of fats for an extended period of time, I try to keep it going for as long as possible. So I want to close by briefly talking about side effects and safety. The side effects are about what you'd expect: hunger, a feeling of weakness, and possibly brain fog. But these side effects are temporary, and once your body has adapted to intermittent fasting, they should go away. If you have a medical condition, you should consult with your doctor before beginning intermittent fasting. This is particularly important if you have diabetes, if you have problems regulating your blood sugar, if you have low blood pressure, if you take medications, and if you are underweight or have a history of eating disorders. Also, women who are trying to conceive, are pregnant, or are breastfeeding, or have a history of amenorrhea should also consult with their doctors before beginning intermittent fasting. Okay, so there you have it. Everything you ever wanted to know about intermittent fasting. Well, maybe not everything. If there's something that you'd like to know, but I didn't mention it here, put it in the comments below, and I'll address it in a future video. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it educational. If you did, then please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button, share it with your friends and on your social media, and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Tuesday. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Till next time.